Now more on that bombshell leak of the document indicating that the Supreme Court is poised to overturn the abortion precedent set in 1973, Roe v. Wade. Now, that news is surprising to many, but perhaps equally as surprising is the fact that this document was leaked at all. And joining us now is Professor Daniel Konkol with the Indiana University Maurer School of Law. Thank you so much for joining us today, Professor Konkol. We keep hearing that this is the first time in modern history that there's been a leak of this importance from the Supreme Court. Is this true, and what's the significance of this leak?
I think it is true in the sense that in modern history, at least, there has never been the release of a complete draft of a draft opinion that is being circulated inside the Supreme Court. There have been rumors of Supreme Court decisions. For example, when the Obamacare decision was decided back in 2012, there were rumors as to how the court was going to decide. I think the decision actually in Roe versus Wade itself was hinted at shortly before it came out, but nothing like this sort of a release of an entire draft opinion at this stage in the process, which is normally conducted confidentially inside the Supreme Court. There's a very deep and strong ethic of confidentiality that the court and the justices have to be able to trust each other and communicate confidentially and candidly within the deliberative process. So this is a huge and, in my view, extremely damaging leak in terms of the Supreme Court's institutional protocols, its institutional ethics, and to some extent, I think it damages the reputation of the Supreme Court for being a body that deliberates in a confidential and appropriate fashion.
Well, talking about that damaging structure of what this does to the Supreme Court, the person that did this, the Chief Justice John Roberts is already talking about it being an egregious breach of trust, calling for an investigation. Would this have to be a clerk that would cause that breach and release this document? And what should be done in this case?
Well, I think a lot of the speculation is that it might be a law clerk. If this were so, it probably would not be a criminal offense, but it would be a very, very serious breach of professional ethics that I think would probably, or at least would have the potential of basically putting an end to this person's legal future in the legal profession. It could not, maybe it's not a clerk. It's possible that it could be a secretary. It's possible, some have speculated, even one of the justices, which would be truly extraordinary, or conceivably somebody hacked in to the Supreme Court system, although I think that probably is quite unlikely.
What would be the motivation for someone to break tradition and do something like that, though? Would it be to perhaps change the outcome?
It could be. Again, I've seen speculation on both sides. One, that this was leaked potentially by someone who would be opposed to the draft opinion, hoping to persuade through political pressure one or more of the conservative justices to shift away from the draft opinion by Justice Alito. I've seen speculation on the other side that this is being released in an attempt to identify justices, the 5 justices identified in the Politico story as being on board for this opinion, in order to sort of ensure that they not jump ship in a less aggressive fashion than indicated by the opinion as drafted. So it could be politically motivated. It could be politically motivated by either side. It's very difficult to say at this point.
Well, I wish we had more time, but the last question, and unfortunately we're running out of time, but that calls into question, though, how likely this draft opinion, the process, how likely is it that this draft opinion will become the actual ruling? How often does it go through changes? And in light of this leak, how likely will it go through any changes?
I think it likely will undergo some changes. Opinions typically do. In the process of negotiation within the Supreme Court. Whether there is a dramatic change is probably less likely to occur. At the same time, stranger things have happened over the course of the Supreme Court's history. So there's no guarantee at all that this will be the final opinion by the Supreme Court. And it could be that it won't get 5 votes. Maybe it would only get 4 votes, in which case there might be other votes. Maybe Chief Justice Roberts and one of the other justices might agree that, for example, they should uphold the Mississippi law, but not go as far as Justice Alito has indicated in this draft opinion.
All right, so at this point, we just don't know. Something to watch and see. Professor Daniel Kunkel, IU Maurer School of Law, thank you so much for explaining this for us and taking the time today. We appreciate it.
You're very welcome.